right, we're live. I know we're just a minute or so late, but hi everybody. Hope you all are doing well.
I am off work tomorrow, and so I was trying to wrap things up, do my automatic email reply thing and all of that stuff, and I just was like, and I saw that text and I was like, "Oh crap." I mean, I was just so involved and I didn't even think. I was like, "Oh my God, that's right."
I know.
Well, I
I was like
apologize,
by
you guys.
myself. It was 2 minutes to go. And I'm like, uh-oh, it doesn't look good. So that's all
Well, we're
right.
here now,
We
so
are all here now.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and run our intro and then we'll get going. All righty. So, all right, good. Well, I'm glad we all made it. That's good. It's life gets busy sometimes for sure. So, okay, so let's just we can show that anyone who's new, this is the book. It is a textbook that we're going through. It is very written at a very high level because it's really for doctors, medical professionals. And for those of you who have not seen us before, we are YouTubers. We eat a carnivore diet, which is a form of a ketogenic diet. And we're trying to learn. So this is not a book club where we read ahead. We actually read to each other, take turns reading and discussing as we go. So, and last week, we left off, we were going through the section that kind of goes through each system. And I know we kind of got a little stumped under the nervous system, which was the last one that we did. Now, Kim, you mentioned that did you like dig in and do a little extra?
No, I did not.
No? Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure because we talked about it and I didn't either, honestly. So I've been working like crazy on stuff. And, I mentioned before that I had published, me and Amy Hospid published this children's book, carnivore children's book. Carrie made a post on his channel showing it. So yeah, so this is part of a fundraiser for the Healing Humanity documentary. And then just like wee hours of the morning, we submitted a book 2 for publishing, which hopefully it's got to go through and make sure it gets approved for all the formatting and everything. But it's a younger kids like storybook. And it's specifically so this one that I just showed was for the Healing Humanity documentary. This second one is to help to raise funds for Dr. Barry's American Diabetes Society.
Ooh.
And it's focused on how sugar impacts these little kids in the story.
Oh, cool.
And so it's really cute. And
So how are you guys writing this together? Do you live in the same place or?
No, she lives in Texas and I live in Washington State, and we are doing it with shared Canva files and phone calls and texting and
Cool.
Yeah. So we've kind of worked out a way that we can like coordinate our skills and work on it together. And we spent, oh gosh, probably 6 hours on the phone last night.
Oh, wow.
Wrapping up everything.
Wow.
Yeah. Because before we actually submit it for publishing, we go page by page and we look at every single little minute detail of everything, and not just the text with all the punctuation and the grammar and spelling, but each character and the margin. And it's amazing. I don't know. We think that Canva's freaking us out because this little sugar monster that's one of the characters, his feet kept moving.
And maybe he was dancing.
Must have been dancing, but we keep moving it back, because it's like a compiled character with the different graphics that we compiled, and we grouped them all together. Mm-hmm. And we'd move the feet over, we'd regroup him, and the next thing you know, we'd go back and he was his feet would have moved again. I'm like, oh, it was
Oh my
driving me crazy. So, anyways, we finally got it done and submitted
that's
last
cool.
night. So, yeah, so I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited for that one, but that's what I've been doing. So, but anything new with you two?
Carrie?
Oh, well, okay. I am off work tomorrow, so it's my fault that we're late.
It's okay.
I was just making sure that my, while you were out email was set up, and I just, tying up some loose ends because the person that we hired to take, for my old position, I was giving him some instructions and just stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but my brother and I are going to hang out, my almost carnivore brother and I are going to hang out tomorrow, and we're going to have our steak and eggs. And then we're going to go to some like record stores and stuff like that. But we're going to see Bush, Candlebox, and Jerry Cantrell tomorrow night.
Oh, cool.
Good.
Yep.
Excellent.
Well, that's awesome.
Excellent. And all's well with you, Kim?
Well, I have been enrolling my second college student into college today, and getting his classes set up, and just doing all the things, all the last minute college student things. So
Right.
yeah, he'll be my oldest. It'll be his second year, and then my 18-year-old, it's his first year.
So you're going to have 2 college tuitions to pay for?
I'll have 2 students in college. But yeah, we have so with Evan, he wants to be a nurse.
Oh,
and he actually wants to be a nurse anesthetist. And
wow.
Here in the state of Kentucky, the governor, during COVID, he came up with he's like really good. His name's Andy Bashir. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. He's like, we call him Daddy. No, not really. No, everybody here loves him, like Democrats, Republicans, like we all love Andy.
Nice.
He's like a conservative Democrat.
Good. Nice.
Like the best. He's probably pretty middle of the road, kind of guy.
Yeah.
And we love him. Anyway. Long story short, he came up with some grant programs during COVID to where it will benefit the state of Kentucky as far as like healthcare, business. There were some other ones like IT, stuff like that, things that Kentucky really needs so that we can keep our students here, keep our young kids here in the state of Kentucky, especially in Eastern Kentucky. They have to leave because there aren't any jobs and there aren't any schools hardly. I mean, there are some schools, but a lot of times kids will leave. So he came up with these grant programs to where people can get a free 2-year degree on the state of Kentucky if they're going into one of these.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's why I say I have 2 children in college.
So without having to pay.
As far as the payment options were, that's kind of
California has that same thing. I don't live in California, but I used to. I think they have that same thing, but you have to go to like a public college or university or a community college, or it's not.
That's what this is, a state. You have to go
school.
to a state school.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's good. That makes it a lot more affordable. So, okay, good. Well, we left off. So we covered the nervous systems, and we left off with neurological and neuropsychiatric disorders. Kim, you want to start? It's a small little paragraph, so I don't know if you just want to do that paragraph, or you want to do the Alzheimer's disease section. Actually, Alzheimer's is included, so just do that whole section if you want.
Okay. Where did my glasses run off to?
They're on your head.
Oh, they're on my head. Am I that age already? Really?
You did that on purpose.
No, I really didn't, Gary.
You
That's
didn't?
the scary part. Okay. 1.2.
Oh, yeah. Amy commented on our little monster feet. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I grew up listening to Bush and Candlebox.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, good. Awesome. We got some people here. Okay.
Okay. 1.2.2.5.6 Neurological and neuropsychiatric disorders. Within the CNS, hyperinsulinemia and or neuronal insulin resistance can lead to systemic dysfunction, including the dopaminergic systems, mood, and memory disturbances. Impairment of BBB insulin transport system. What is BBB?
Blood-brain barrier.
Blood-brain barrier. Okay.
Oh, good one, Carrie.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I knew one.
No, you're right. Yep. Impairment of blood-brain barrier insulin transport systems, reduced synaptic plasticity, and centrally driven metabolic dysfunction. Furthermore, hyperinsulinemia is associated with impairment of the lymphatic drainage system, post-INSR, post-insulin. What is that? INSR?
I thought it was the insulin receptors.
I thought it was too, but then it says post
receptor.
It says post
it's like they're
INSR
repeating it.
receptor defects.
We need to get our own glossary.
What is somebody Google what INSR is real quick.
All right, Carrie, you want to Google that?
Yeah.
I thought it was insulin receptor.
Oh, you know what?
I think you're right.
He's got a list of acronyms. And of course, that one's not on there. Oh, they're not even alphabetical order. Sorry, at the back of the book, he has on page 515. They have
Insulin receptor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
It's insulin receptor. Yeah. Okay.
So you know how sometimes, what is it? People will say like, oh, there's a common one that people use all the time. And then they say the word that's actually what the last
NASCAR car.
Yeah.
What is it they say? Is it when they... Anyway, yeah.
There is one
the word
used
twice
all the time.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, all right. So let me start that sentence over. Furthermore, hyperinsulinemia is associated with impairment of the lymphatic drainage system, post-insulin receptor defects, and or reduced IGF-1 expression. This means that many aspects of brain and nerve health are impaired, especially when considered alongside the previously described microvascular and mitochondrial changes leading to cerebrovascular dysfunction, including an increased risk of stroke or depression. Alzheimer's disease. Hyperinsulinemia is an independent risk factor for Alzheimer's disease and increases the risk for other neurological diseases. In fact, association between type 2 diabetes, a hyperinsulinemic condition, and Alzheimer's disease is so strong that Alzheimer's disease is being referred to as type 3 diabetes. Mm-hmm. It is believed that insulin resistance increases tau phosphorylation and increases expression of beta amyloid peptide. When these are combined with increased expression of tumor necrosis factor alpha, it facilitates the formation of the amyloid plaques that are the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. Furthermore, insulin modulates polysialylated polysialylated, maybe.
I think it's sialylated. Yeah.
Polysialylated.
Oh my gosh.
That's a big word.
Polysialylated. Polysialylated.
Holy cow.
I've never met a word that I hated more than polysialylated.
That is not
la 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 la.
Polysialylated. Neuronal cell adhesion molecule turnover. Dysregulated PSA-NCAM. Okay, I guess that's the word that I just read in that neuronal cell adhesion molecule is associated with Alzheimer's disease and schizophrenia.
Ooh. Oh, interesting. I wonder how many people with Alzheimer's disease also end up with schizophrenia, and or if there's like such a like a crossover, because there's a lot of paranoia with Alzheimer's.
I can't remember if it was Georgia Ede or Chris Palmer or possibly both, but I know I've heard them say that there's a correlation. I know I've heard them say that. They're comorbidities.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it's often people who have schizophrenia will end up with, what is it? I think it's often people who have schizophrenia will end up with Alzheimer's, and then a large percentage of people with Alzheimer's do have schizophrenia.
And also there's an association between celiac disease and schizophrenia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Is it because of the malabsorption that comes with celiac disease and then you develop nutrient deficiencies?
I don't think so. I think it's just, I think they think that it's, related to developing schizophrenia.
Interesting.
A larger percentage of those people have celiac disease.
Interesting. So I wonder if if it's right now it's a correlation thing and they haven't linked the actual mechanism.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely not like officially linked, but it's kind of one of those things where, it's very curious.
That is. I would suspect it might have something to do with malabsorption, because that's the big thing with celiac is, over time, that malabsorption can create nutrient deficiencies if it's not well controlled.
I would almost think that it would be something in like the gliadin or whatever, doing something to the brain, damaging the brain the same way it's damaging the intestines.
Maybe.
Yeah, because Dr. William Davis, in his book Wheat Belly, and I'm sure in other things too, but he's talked about the opiate receptors and stuff in the brain, that the gliadin, I know I'm not saying that quite right.
I think it's called gliadin.
Gliadin.
I can't say it.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
That it does affect the brain, and one of the things, and they've actually done MRIs and stuff, and apparently have seen it too, is like it affects those opiate receptors. So it definitely messes with your head somehow.
People with celiac maybe have the same root cause, like, because obviously not everyone has celiac, and not everybody has gluten sensitivity.
It says that basically there was a study of circulating gliadin antibodies in schizophrenia. So they have the same antibodies, I guess. Gluten consumption has previously been implicated in the development of schizophrenia, while an immunological link between gluten and schizophrenia was established by the detection of circulated antibodies against gliadin, a major component of wheat gluten. And there's like an NIH article, but I would read it, but I didn't have time to read the one from last week. So
you know what they say about the what is it? The good paved with good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah,
that's right. There's a vast amount of good intentions here.
I think I have come to the conclusion that I'm just doing too much.
Yeah. Well, that's a busy time, when you're getting, and you've got 2 kids. Well, I know I've
got 4.
Well, but the one's going to school, going to college, and you're, doing.
And then I've got the elementary one that started back, and then one of them's homeschooled, so I've got to get all his stuff. It's just, and then I'm also selling stuff on TikTok Shop and doing lives over there. I did 2 lives. I've done 2 lives in the last 24 hours. One of them lasted 4 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And basically for the entire 4 hours, you have to repeat, like you're on QVC or something. You have to repeat the same stuff about the product over and over.
Oh my word.
Yeah. So my voice is a little hoarse today, but.
Yeah. Wow, you are busy, girl.
That is a lot.
I've got too many hobbies, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but that's good, though. You've got a lot of interests and a lot of things that you're working on and doing. That's a good thing.
And then I'm like sliding into home, like, I'm here. I feel like when when you wake up late and you hit your alarm clock and you're like, oh, I'm awake. And it's like you have this big cortisol. That's what I feel like.
Oh my goodness.
Several times throughout the day.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So Alzheimer's and schizophrenia are associated and related to insulin.
Well, and then of course they go on to talk about mental health here. I can read that if you want me to.
Yeah, it's up to you.
We're on the next one, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, if you want to do the next two, the mental health and the neuropathies, that's fine.
Okay. All right. The impact of hyperinsulinemia on mental health is debated. However, hyperinsulinemia is associated with schizophrenia, gosh, Carrie, and insulin resistance is a well-known consequence of many atypical antipsychotic medications. Oh, okay. So the medications cause
there's
antipsychotic medications will cause insulin resistance. That's what they're saying there. Yeah. Okay.
And I guess that's why they cause all that weight gain.
Yep. Yeah. However, increased rates of insulin resistance are being reported in first episode drug-naive patients with schizophrenia compared to healthy age and sex-matched controls, suggesting a mechanism that is independent of the medications. There is some evidence to suggest that schizophrenia is associated with central oxidative stress and/or dysregulation of free radical metabolism. Both would be aggravated by hyperinsulinemia.
Oh, interesting. So,
It is interesting.
So disruption.
The first episode, because, I have heard about the medications causing the problems. I've heard that before. Like if, someone has, said that they've started taking it and then you notice, they will put on some weight and they'll say to you, gosh, I can't lose this weight. Or you'll hear Dr. Berry, advise somebody, well, it could be medications, giving you a problem. Yeah. But this first talking about are being reported in first episode drug naive patients.
Yeah. So they're insulin resistant before they're even on any of these psychiatric medications.
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Neuropathies. Peripheral neuropathy is an extremely complex but common consequence of both type 1 and type 2 diabetes and is both autonomic and somatic subtypes. While optimal glycemic control is reported to reduce the relative risk of neuropathy by 78% in people with type 1 diabetes, this is reduced to less than 10% in people with type 2. And so my theory, I'll read.
So let me just make it clear. So they're saying that they're talking about optimal glycemic control. So controlling your actual blood sugar, checking your finger sticks or your glucose monitor or whatever is effective in reducing risk of neuropathy by 78% people with type 2 diabetes. But optimal glycemic control only reduces the risk of peripheral neuropathy by 10% in type 2 diabetes. Is that what I'm reading here?
Right. And I'm thinking that that's because the people with type 2 have the insulin resistance to go along with it, because type 1 is a totally different cause.
Right.
And so they have to have the insulin because they don't make any or they don't make enough. But with type 2 diabetes, it's different. They
they probably get insulin
more.
They probably had high insulin for years, if not decades, before they actually developed type 2 diabetes.
So that does make sense.
So controlling the blood sugar is not really the approach. It needs to be getting the insulin levels down.
So ironically, I was just talking to someone on Reddit about this last night.
Really?
So it wasn't about type 1 versus type 2. It was about type 2 neuropathy versus somebody who doesn't have diabetes, but who, when they eat sugar, which this happens to me, okay? When I eat sugar, which I may or may not have had some M&Ms yesterday.
Maybe.
I feel like I'm in confession right now. I haven't had M&Ms in, well, I don't even know how long, but a long, long, long time. And I'm like, for some reason, these hormones that I'm on now, they've got me. You know how you feel like when your hormones are, you're pregnant and your hormones are surging, and you're just like, that's how I felt. Like I've just been ravenously hungry lately. So I was at the store and I just had a lot going on, and I'm like, I want some M&Ms, and I'm getting some M&Ms. So anyway, I got those M&Ms. Well, I mean, within like probably a couple of hours, I assume this is due to inflammation from the sugar. My hands get numb. My hands used to stay numb. If I would raise my hands up to like chest level, like say to put them on a shopping cart, it started doing this after I had my second baby, first baby. I don't remember. It was years ago. And as long as I keep my inflammation down, it doesn't happen. I don't know. I have had theories about this coming from my neck, whether I was inflamed and it was like pinching some kind of nerve.
It's both sides, right?
But it's both sides.
Yeah.
And to me, I thought, okay, I was pre-diabetic. Maybe I was developing some sort of like neuropathy early. I don't know.
It would be weird though that like one packet of M&Ms would cause such an extreme reaction.
I mean, the doctors can't explain it, and that's what the people on Reddit, that's what we were talking about. And they were on there desperately asking the question because they were like, okay, this is just when my sugar goes up. And I checked my sugar post M&Ms just for science, y'all, just for science. It went up to 150. Okay. That is not a level at which you would think that you should be getting a lot of like be super symptomatic with things. But to me, it's kind of like blood pressure. If my blood pressure is 130 systolic, I'm like, ooh, you know, I mean, I'm usually 100 to 110. So
yeah,
anyway,
that does.
I don't know what it is. I just attribute it to the sugar causing inflammation, but that's.
I mean, it makes sense, and it makes sense that it would be something to do with, you know, maybe your neck.
I have a little bit of neck. I have a little bit of neck pain when I have inflammation also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just figure maybe it's, you know, my neck's kind of like forward head posture. And then, you know, I've got a lot going on in this general area. So maybe there's some thoracic outlet type of, I mean, this is all guesses, y'all. I treat myself 90% of the time. Yeah. Because if I go and tell a doctor that, they'll say, well, that doesn't cause that. So.
Yeah. And have you had a neck x-ray?
Mm-hmm.
Any degeneration?
No, I mean, just like a mild age related, like nothing that, you know, is impressive in any way.
That is so bizarre.
What's funny though is, well, it's not funny. It's not fun at all. But I mean, my neck is like totally screwed up. I was in a car accident when I was a teenager, and I wasn't hospitalized for it, but I think it affected my neck. And then I was in a horseback riding accident, which is kind of the same difference. And I recovered well after both of those. It's just that there was damage, and then now there's arthritis in there and all that. So it's a disc is compressed and stuff like that. And eating carnivore though, well, actually it improved a lot on keto.
Yeah.
And then with carnivore, like I just about never have any pain anymore. And if I do cheat a little, I mean, I consider cheating like, you know, if I eat something keto or something, basically.
Yeah, I normally do too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will, like, once in a while I'll have cheesecake. We have gatherings for work, and somebody always has to bring cheesecake. And so I'll have some of that, for example, and I'll just expect, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's what you expect. Who knows? But
yeah,
sometimes I do, you know, I will have that pain back there when I haven't had pain in a long time.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying about the inflammation, but what's really wild though is that my neck is a mess, but it doesn't bother me for the most part as long as I eat clean.
Well, the good news is today I went to Sam's Club. After we registered my son for school, I fasted all morning because I was like, bad. So I must be
Punishing
punished.
yourself.
So I fasted all morning, and then I didn't eat till, I guess, probably about 2:00. And I stopped at Sam's Club and got a bunch of ribeyes, a bunch of New York strip, a bunch of thin ribeye. I'm like, we're getting back on track here,
That's
folks.
right.
That was a major derailment yesterday.
Yeah, that's good.
But you know what? That was after
a
one pack of M&Ms. It
Yeah,
could have been a
that's
whole lot
crazy.
worse. That's great.
Listen, it was a king size pack of M&Ms.
Well, it's still just one though.
I cannot tell a lie. I ate some king size peanut M&Ms yesterday.
Oh man, I used to eat peanut M&Ms like on a routine basis,
Oh,
like
me
not
too.
every day or anything, but that was one of my go-to snacks, man.
Well,
I loved them.
Oh yeah, I
I
used to get
remember-
family size bags of peanut M&Ms and
That's-
just pump on them while I was watching TV.
Yes. So I remember one of my worst episodes of what they call migraines with me, which is essentially just double vision and a mild headache. Okay. And I'm talking double vision that makes me like just feel like the room is just spinning.
Oh,
Was
my.
after I had worked a 12-hour shift, came home, laid on the couch. You know, Lynn, as a nurse, sometimes you just do not feel like cooking when you get home. And when you're not eating something that's like most of the time, yeah. So when you're not eating something that's easy to just cook, like a steak, and you feel like you have to have a whole big meal and you can't even find anything, you don't even want to find anything. I laid there on the couch one night after a 12-hour shift and I ate probably half a bag. Now, this was years ago.
Yeah.
I ate probably half a bag of peanut M&Ms, like a family size bag. That was my dinner. And I had the worst episode right after that. So me with high hyperglycemia, and I'm talking like numbers that aren't even that high. I don't know what my number was that night, but it probably wasn't much higher than it.
So does that happen with other sweets too?
I mean,
Kim's like,
yeah.
challenge accepted.
It's not just peanut M&Ms.
Yeah.
It happens anytime I'm eating a crap diet.
Okay.
Like if I'm eating a lot of carby stuff, I'll have that numbness in my hands.
Okay.
And if I'm eating a lot of carby stuff, and also, something else that's a trigger for my little migraines, my double vision, is if I have a fight or flight response. It can be super mild. It can be something as simple as we're pulling up somewhere and I think there's somebody there that I don't like, or and just for a brief second, you just get kind of, like that. Yeah. And I'm talking about like really don't like.
So your nervous system seems to be really sensitive.
Yeah. I think it's like cortisol, or maybe
I
my
was
cortisol
curious about the M&Ms because of the dyes that, I don't know if the possibility it was the dyes, but since it happens with all like carby and sugar sweets, then
now the double vision thing doesn't necessarily happen with all carby. Like it's kind of random, but then I have noticed it with fight or flight response and with like eating a lot of sugar. But anyway.
Interesting. Tinnitus. I have tinnitus too. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see.
Rice, wrist crafters, a dollop of spine. A dollop of butter.
I'm not sure what that is. That's
I think it's butter.
Spine.
What is spine caning?
Caning?
I think it means like it's just killing her, like it's just hurting.
So Sandra, with the tinnitus, so I don't really have tinnitus, but I feel like my eustachian tube I can hear it, like it like pops and crackles, like it's getting, blocked up whenever I eat sugar.
Okay. All right. So my tinnitus seems to be, I'm still trying to figure out what makes it worse and what makes it better. So Amy says, with insulin resistance and not burning fat, my entire left leg is chocolate and peanut butter. utter M&M, and my left thigh is where all the Oreos are stored, that I ate in my 20s and 30s. Yes.
Oh yeah.
So
I've got a lot of Reese cups in there too, but like, in my general makeup.
oh, I do too. And then of course you had the ice cream, which melts and fills in all the
Oh
crevices
yeah.
that they missed, right? All those years of decades of bad eating. So, okay. So neuropathies, it's going to take us a while to get through the neuropathy section, but okay. So
Sorry, I'm getting us off track.
that's okay.
No, that's so interesting though, and it just goes to show. And I think that Lynn is right. I mean, your nervous system is really sensitive, and
Yeah.
so and it makes sense with other like autoimmune things too, like with Michaela Peterson having to eat, the lion diet, for example. Like that's what she has to eat for her health. So it totally makes sense. So this is a good discussion.
Kim, have you ever done the Wim Hof breathing?
I don't know which particular one that is, but I do several breathing techniques.
Wim Hof, you need to look up Wim Hof. So like I've been having a ton of trouble with getting to sleep, like insomnia. And of course, last night didn't help because Amy and I were up like all night working on the book. But the previous night, I decided I've been working on all this stuff to try for my insomnia. And I decided to do a Wim Hof breathing video. Man, did it work. And that, I mean, if you don't know about Wim Hof, you need to look him up because
people. Are you talking about the one that I told Dave Mack about during my interview? Where you breathe all the way in and you stop and then you take another short breath?
No. Okay. His is a very unique breathing technique that he guides you through. And he is kind of a freak of nature, but he's trained his body to do exactly what he wants it to do, even on a cellular level. Like this guy has broken so many world records. He can go.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, like I think he claimed the Himalayas in shorts and no shirt, and he can sit there out at the top of the mountain in the freezing snow, and his body temperature literally, it's not just he has the tolerance, literally his body temperature stays warm.
Huh.
And he has, I mean, I think like he has like the way his techniques are, he has gotten so much control over his body on a cellular level. It's freaky. But his breathing techniques I've heard so many testimonies about them being life-changing for people. And I think they do really regulate your nervous system. So, and they don't take that long. You might want to look into it.
Shoot, I will.
One more thing. I'm going to add one more thing and then we can move on. But I have noticed over the years that I usually run around 100 to 110 when I'm eating crap food. That's just like heart rate. That's just what I run. And I would do this little trick for my friends, party trick, where I would sit there and look at my Apple Watch and I'd be like, watch, I can, even like sitting there at rest, my heart rate would come down to like 96. I'd say, hey, I can drop my heart rate 10 points. Now just sit here and watch it. It's not going to drop with us just sitting here. I can even sit here and relax. It's not going to drop, but I'm going to drop it for you. And I'll sit there and I will just mentally, like, just totally relax, almost try to get like in a meditative state, and then just like breathe really slow and just deep and just totally relax, and I would drop it 10 points and they're like, that's the coolest trick ever.
Wow.
But I mean, it's like my mind does it, it's just like my body, my mind tells my body, you need to chill out.
Well, there's been actual scientific studies that show that these breathing exercises do activate your parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
And they help to improve that part of your nervous system. So regular practice of it, might be helpful for you with these if you have a really sensitive nervous system, which may have been sensitized from all the years of your candida.
Yeah. Well, when that double vision stuff started was when my dad was diagnosed with ALS. So
during the stress. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Let's try to move on here.
All right. this highlights that the mechanism of peripheral neuropathy in people with type 2 diabetes likely stems from hyperinsulinemia, as insulin resistance, dyslipidemia, hyperglycemia, systemic inflammation, and mitochondrial dysfunction are all implicated. Pain is common with somatic neuropathies, which, as described previously, worsens insulin resistance. Hyperinsulinemia can complicate somatic neuropathies by impairing the healing process following injuries, such as impaired nitrous oxide, isn't that right? Preventing poor capillary circulation. Pseudomotor dysfunction may be an early presentation of diabetic neuropathies. Pseudomotor dysfunction, I guess, right, we might need to Google that word. Pseudomotor, I mean, it's something to do with motion.
It's not PSEUD.
Yeah, it's SUDO. Pseudomotor.
Yeah, so pseudo, not Sudoku.
Autocorrect.
That's right. Okay, pseudomotor function is the autonomic nervous system's control of sweat gland activity in response to environmental and individual factors. The word pseudomotor comes from the Latin word sudor, meaning sweat, and motor, meaning movement. Okay, so that's okay. Sweat gland activity. Interesting. So your sweat. That's interesting because I for years did not sweat.
Yeah,
I couldn't make myself sweat, but I've noticed just recently I've started, not heavy, but I've actually started, the glistening. I'll get the glistening, which I didn't get before. I could be out in the heat and the sun and my skin would be just as dry as anything. And now it's actually, I'm noticing I'm getting the glistening. So my nervous system must be improving. So
I have never glistened in my life. I sweat bad.
I've never sweated in my whole life.
Really?
Now as an adult, after I had babies and I was going through hormonal stuff, I would sweat. But before that, when I was growing up through even being a teenager, I was a cheerleader and everything. I was in band. We stood out in the heat. I don't ever remember sweating, aside from maybe a tiny, tiny amount, maybe right here.
Yeah.
But everybody else would have total wetness on the back of their neck. It'd be running down the back of their back. They'd have it in their underarms. My underarms never, nothing. I never got hardly any sweat at all. But I was also little bitty, so I don't know if that was.
So I wonder for you, I know we all have our sensitivities, our areas where we have our weakness. I wonder if your autonomic nervous system is your weak area, or just your nervous system in general is your weak area.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because you got these little weird things that, that's interesting.
My cousin has some adrenal issues. I don't know if that's any relation at all, but
it's interesting because I've always been a sweater. I don't perspire and I have never glistened in my life. It is if I'm doing something physical outside and it's hot, or even if I'm really not doing anything physical and I'm hot, I will just sweat. It's wild. I feel almost I don't know, it almost my son came over early Sunday and helped me clean out that storage closet. And actually, he did most of the work, bless him. But it was already hot. It was he got here at 7, and by 9 o'clock, it was already in the upper 80s and climbing. It's it was 96 today. And I was just out there just sweating. I was my shirt was sticking to me. And so that's wild. It's so weird how people are different.
Yeah.
That is.
I wonder how much of it is toxic exposures and, things like that affect your nervous system. Who knows, heavy metals, mold, with Kim, the candida, maybe you have a more normal functioning nervous system.
I don't know. It's almost like my sweat glands are too active. almost. I mean, I have to stay hydrated. I do. I have to drink lots of water with electrolytes if I just get hot. I am one of those people.
Oh, this is interesting. Sandra says, I've noticed over the years, tall people seem to have more perspiration than shorter people. I don't know. Is there? Well, you're tall.
5'9", so that could be.
I'm tall too. Like you, so you're 5'9", right?
Yep.
And I'm 5'8". So at least for us, there's definitely not a
That's funny.
tall correlation. And,
All right.
All right.
We need to move it on.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So
pseudomotor dysfunction may be an early presentation of diabetic neuropathies. Although arising in the extremities, it may also present as proximal hyperhidrosis or gustatory sweating. Is that gustatory sweating? Okay, what the heck does that mean? The gustatory, that
I think that's with eating, because like gustatory rhinitis is like when people's nose runs after they eat.
I do that.
That happens to me with certain foods.
I do it. It's about half the time. And I really haven't found a rhyme or reason, although, well, one thing does make it happen more, and that's the full-fat Greek yogurt.
So proximal hyperhidrosis, is that like fancy term for sweaty palms?
Oh, I don't know.
Proximal. You think that would be distal?
Oh, that would be distal. Did it say proximal? Oh,
yeah,
it says proximal. Okay. Mm-hmm. Although it says all rising in the extremities, it may also present as proximal. Okay, I'm confused now. That's why I thought it might be sweaty palms.
The type of hyperhidrosis.
You can buy this on Amazon, and maybe it has like on Kindle, and then it has like links for the words. You know how some books will do that, and then you just click on the word, and it'll tell you what it is. But for us, or for me anyway, there'd be links all over the place because I don't know what.
Oh yeah, no,
I'm not medical.
So it says proximal hyperhidrosis is a type of hyperhidrosis, a common condition that causes excessive sweating that can occur in the proximal regions of the body, such as the head and trunk.
Okay.
And it says it can also occur with peripheral neuropathies.
Okay.
So it does tie in with this.
Yeah, that ties in with it, your nervous system affecting your sweating.
Okay,
that's
interesting.
Yeah. Autonomic neuropathies also confer significant increases in morbidity and mortality. Cardiovascular neuropathies may be associated with denervation of the vagus nerve and often result in diminished cardiac output. Gastrointestinal neuropathies can increase or decrease gastrointestinal transit times with accompanying challenges to glucose and or electrolyte homeostasis. Urogenital neuropathies can increase the risk of bladder and or sexual dysfunction, with the latter being compounded by nitrous oxide and or vascular complications. So in other words, that is why the little blue pill was invented.
Right. Right. Well, the little blue pill is used for ED because it was it became known as a side effect, and so it was more prescribed now for ED.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of medications that are like that they, you know, they come out for one thing and they find they have a beneficial side effect, you know. And like it's like metformin for smoking cessation, and you know, originally was for diabetic medication. So
metformin for smoking?
No, not metformin. Sorry, the other one.
Oh, Chantix.
Wellbutrin, yeah, the psych med. I don't know
why. Really?
Metformin and Wellbutrin mixed up, but Wellbutrin, Wellbutrin was a psych med and antidepressant, and it can help with smoking cessation. So
I guess I did not know that. Yeah. And I noticed that I know you flashed it up, but I have to say hi to our friend, Dr. Nelson.
Yeah.
Hi, Doc. It's good to see you. Of course, I'm glad to see everybody, but
I'm
always glad to see everybody. So anyway, okay. So we finished neuropathies. So
all right. So I'll do, since the next two sections, I'll just do through the summary since it's not that long.
Okay.
Okay, so the next section is skeletal and structural support systems, which is a small little section here. Hyperinsulinemia affects the structural support systems, especially bone and skin, by decreasing the quality and quantity of collagen production via mitochondrial stress. Hyperinsulinemia, compounded by hyperglycemia, also places additional stress on all cells in the bone modeling unit, so osteoblasts, clasts, and sites, leading to decreased cellular differentiation and or early death or apoptosis. Consequently, there is excessive bone mineralization without the necessary underlying support structures, leading to normal to high bone mineral density, but increased risk of fragility fractures or osteofragilitis. So, okay, so you may have increased bone density, but more fragility.
And Dr. Berry, I've heard him talk about that too, because like people will be saying what's the best thing to do, because they've had a bone scan or whatever, and their doctor wants to put them on various medications. And he always says making your bones thicker doesn't necessarily make them stronger. And so this makes, what I'm saying, Kim? So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Dr. Milson says sildenafil is being studied for pulmonary hypertensions. It kept giving men reactions. Okay.
And by reactions.
Yes, by reactions.
If we move the E and the R and take out the A and put another E in there, maybe.
Only you would do that. Move the letters around. Yeah. There's a game, isn't it, that how many words can you spell with these letters?
It's a word jumble.
Play that.
Yeah. So if you jumble the letters enough, you'll get this hidden meaning behind that.
Yes.
So
very good.
Yeah, another one of those medications. Okay, so the next section is on cancer. So hyperinsulinemia is associated with both the development of and the survival rates for many cancers, both directly and indirectly via obesity and increased visceral fat deposits. These cancers include liver, bladder, colorectal, pancreatic, gastroesophageal, breast, endometrial, and renal. Although it must be noted that age, sex, or method of assessing visceral adiposity may influence these results. Mechanisms include, how does the method of assessing your visceral adiposity affect how it impacts your cancer risk? Or is it just the study was impacted by how people measured their fat?
Let's see. The method of assessing visceral adiposity may influence these results. Oh, like I would imagine that the more, who is that? Like Sean O'Mara isn't that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. O'Mara, who does he does the sprinting and all of that. And so they do these like MRI or these, it's not an MRI, I don't think. I think it's something else.
So Dr. Nelson meant to use the right terminology there.
Autocorrect again.
That's right. Autocorrect.
We thought we were just beating around the bush there.
We thought he was being
calling it.
We thought, yes, we thought you were being, yes.
We thought he was being subtle.
Yes, but it was autocorrect, preventing him from using anatomically correct, physiologically correct.
Well, it would be a reaction.
It would be a reaction. So autocorrect was not entirely wrong.
That's right.
So the method, but in other words, like if you do the imaging with one method versus another, it may not be accurate, is kind of how
it might have impacted the study, and so that correlation may or may not be accurate then.
Right. That's what I'm thinking, but I don't.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so mechanisms include increased IGF-1 vascular endothelial growth factor, increased mitogenic activity, decreased hepatic production of sex hormone binding protein globulin, and increased adipokines. These effects can be compounded by hyperglycemia, as most cancer cells generate ATP mostly by aerobic glycolysis, or the Warburg effect. Indirectly, increased reactive oxidation species stimulates cell proliferation and causes structural changes to DNA with potential mutagenic effects. So interestingly, diabetes is associated with a lower incidence of prostate cancer, potentially due to lower levels of testosterone. Interesting. However, no matter the type of cancer, epidemiological studies have shown that people with type 2 diabetes and concomitant cancer have higher mortality rates compared to those without type 2 diabetes. Whether this is due to delayed diagnosis and or poorer treatment or other clinical factors, or simply due to the excess age-adjusted mortality typically associated with diabetes is yet to be determined. Okay.
I don't know about that statement about the testosterone. I've never thought that how much testosterone you had logically would determine your cancer.
Wasn't that in Dr. Barry's book?
Yes.
That we read? He had a whole section on it.
And that's what I've always thought too. I'm like, okay, why don't we see a lot of 16 to 18-year-old boys going around with
prostate cancer?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. If it was the testosterone link, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the whole point Dr. Barry said, is that you'd have a bunch of young men with their high testosterone levels. It would not be an old man disease.
And after the horrible research on estrogen, that they basically, a whole generation of women were just basically scared to death to replace their estrogen. And, whether or not they chose to, that's their business. But like, they should have been given that option, and basically had to suffer unnecessarily. After that, it's like, what else are we getting wrong, folks? I mean, it's no wonder that people don't trust the medical system. It's no wonder people don't trust, people are science deniers and stuff, because I get it. I understand the process of science. I understand when you know better information, you have the better information, and then this is what we know now, and I get that. But sometimes it's just like, God, it's exhausting.
Well,
they get so much stuff wrong.
And the studies, I mean, we know now that the studies, like the conclusions, often don't match the data.
Yeah.
But yet the conclusions are what's reported. And
meanwhile, people are suffering. And then you have doctors like my doctor who says, well, don't worry about that side effect. It only happens with, 1 in 300 or something. And I'm like, okay, but what if I'm one of those? We're looking at this a totally different way, Doc. You're thinking of, just 1 out of these 300 patients I have. And I'm thinking, I've only got 1 life.
Yeah.
So I don't want to mess around with it. So
and usually it's not 1 out of 300. It's more like 3 out of 100. I mean, for most of them.
I just made that up.
No, I know, but I'm just saying they think of that as like being nothing. But I mean, if you look at even 3 people out of 100, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. And this was just medications that they were giving me that weren't even, they were supposedly just benign, I don't think there's any medication that's so benign that I want to take it every day if I don't absolutely have to.
Right.
Well, when you look at the side effects data that you get with the medication, and it's been a while since I've read the sheets that come with anything, but if you look at the FDA website, or if you look at our nursing resources, it'll break it down into, less than 10% of people, greater than 10% of people have these particular side effects. Even if it's less than 10%, it could be 9%. Like, that's 9 people out of 100.
Yeah. And it may be something like dropped dead,
Yeah.
So
gives you type 2 diabetes, like in the case of statins,
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's just things that make your life miserable. It's like, okay, you have a 9% chance of having diarrhea.
Or you have a 9% chance that you'll never be able to have an erection again if you take this medication for erections.
How many people
It's usually it's usually, I have found that whatever a medicine can cure, it can also cause it.
Yep.
That's very true. That's very true. Okay, so cancer. Yeah, I don't know about the whole testosterone thing either, because didn't they say in the book of Dr. Rebar's book that when they gave older men the testosterone that they actually got better, their prostates got better. Yeah, which makes so much more sense. Okay, quick summary here, just a couple sentences. Overall, hyperinsulinemia is connected either directly or indirectly with most, if not all, non-communicable diseases. At the cellular level, this involves impaired mitochondria, fuel use, substrate in ATP production of reactive oxidative, is it series or stress, or I keep forgetting what the S stands for. Species, that's it. And impaired cellular signaling. While many organs and tissues are directly affected by hyperinsulinemia and or insulin resistance, resultant microvascular disease and impaired neuronal signaling will eventually impair all body systems. So it's interesting, like, just to kind of as a side note, when they're talking about the mitochondria, and I know we used to, like, when we were learning about it in school, it was like a factory, right? Mm-hmm. And she talked about the fuel use, all these different things that the mitochondria does, including the signaling. There's like multiple ways that your mitochondrial function can get disrupted. It's not just like one way, like it's a simple cell. And if, it'll just like explode if it goes wrong. There's all these little things within the mitochondria. Mm-hmm. That it can get really, really complex, and who knows what's causing what. It's just multiple things can cause the mitochondria not to work. Okay, so we finished section 1.2. Oh my goodness, what time is it? So we got a little bit of time. You guys want to start the next section?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we can start the next one.
All right. So Kim, why don't you take off with 1.3?
Okay, 1.3, the adoption and evolution of dietary guidelines. Timothy David Noakes.
Oh, so he wrote this section.
That's what it looks like.
Cool.
Unless care is, and this is a quote, and this quote is by W.O. Atwater from 1902. Unless care is exercised in selecting food, a diet may result which is one-sided or badly balanced. That is, one in which either protein or fuel ingredients, carbohydrate, and fat are provided in excess. The evils of overeating may not be felt at once, but sooner or later they are sure to appear, perhaps in an excessive amount of fatty tissue, perhaps in general debility, perhaps in actual disease.
That's an interesting quote, because we are on a one-sided, not balanced diet.
Yeah. Oh, I never like it when I hear that balanced.
Yeah. And so far, I know I've experienced the opposite of an excess amount of fatty tissue. I've lost over 100 pounds, and the diseases are reversing. So that's interesting. This quote is interesting.
Well, when you were talking about I thought you meant as a country, we are on a very high carbohydrate diet, and we are having all those health problems. I think this statement is true up to a point. I mean, if people were eating vegetables for their carbohydrates, for example, and not all this other stuff, like all the breads and things that they were eating before, and if they were getting adequate amounts of the protein and the fat that comes with it, then I think that we would have, wouldn't have all the health problems that we have today.
Yeah.
So I wasn't thinking about us as being carnivore, and heavily meat based with an occasional peanut M&M.
Yeah. Well, I wonder back in 1902 when this
And
realized what a
M&M,
balance diet was.
Carrie, and
There were no M&Ms back in
No,
1902.
there were no M&Ms.
But I wonder what a balanced diet was back then. You know, I don't think it included 99% of the garbage that we
yeah.
tend to eat
I
now.
was reading something, and gosh, I'm going to have to go back and look and see if I can find out where it was, that back in the like pre-1900s, for example, vegetables weren't even eaten that much. People ate potatoes and they ate it, but like all these greens and stuff like that, nobody ate them. They fed them to the animals.
Yeah.
They were grown as feed for the livestock.
Yeah.
People would eat tomatoes. There were a few, but the vast majority of vegetables that we eat today, like eat your leafy greens and all that, we didn't eat those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. In section 1.1, we described how the species-specific human diet evolved over millions of years, gradually being adapted by distinct populations living in diverse environments where the food sources naturally differed. The knowledge of what was safe, wholesome, and had survival value in each specific environment was then handed down from generation to generation. Continuing to eat this way over millennia produced robust populations, always at risk of dying from infections and trauma, but which were largely free of the chronic diseases of modernity, including cancer. Thus, the dietary guidelines were simple. You ate the natural and unprocessed foods that your father hunted, your mother gathered, and probably your mother prepared for you. In the last decade of the 19th century and the first of the 20th century, science first weighs in with advice to humans about what we should be eating. It takes the form of two publications authored by W.O. Atwater. Oh, so
Oh,
that quote was problematic.
started it.
Then the first director of the Office of Experiment Stations in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The advice focused on the importance of variety, proportionality, and moderation in healthful eating. At the time, minerals and vitamins had not yet been identified. Thus, the advice referred only to the intakes of protein, carbohydrates, fat, and mineral matter. It has ash in the parentheses. By the 1920s, this advice had advanced to categorize foods into 5 major groups: milk and meat, cereals, vegetables and fruits, fats and fatty foods, and sugar and sugary foods, with suggested amounts of different foods that should be purchased each week by the average family. At the 1941 National Nutrition Conference for Defense, the Food and Nutrition Board of the National Academy of Sciences released the first set of recommended daily allowances, RDAs, which established the recommended intakes of calories and of 9 essential nutrients. By 1943, the Basic 7 Food Guide had been released. After 1961, the campaign by the American Heart Association and others to vigorously promote Ansel Keys' twin hypotheses, twin hypotheses, the diet, heart, and lipid hypotheses became the defining influence on the national U.S. dietary advice. As a result, the concerns of those directing U.S. nutrition policy shifted from an exclusive focus on ensuring an adequate intake of essential nutrients to one of avoiding excessive intake of identified nutrients considered to cause specific chronic diseases. The shift was cemented with the release of what became known as the first U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, Dietary Goals for Americans, DGA. Many argue that the dietary guidelines were the direct cause of the epidemics of obesity and type 2 diabetes and other related chronic diseases, now reaching epidemic proportions around the globe.
Okay,
I didn't know that went back that far.
So this
to
Atwater
1902.
guy, he's the one who really started pushing the balanced diet.
Department of
And
Ag.
that
And
would
what was
not
it called? Experiment stations. I'm like, that's as bad as sanitarium foods. You know, they I think they have that in Australia. It's a company called Sanitarium.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
here, the next section is actually going over those guidelines.
oh,
The
wow.
dietary goals for Americans.
Yep.
Who wants to
Oh,
read
we
that?
have a
Okay,
beautiful
Carrie, you want
graphic.
to grab that one?
Sure. Okay. 1.3.1, the USDA dietary goals for Americans, because we are some goal-oriented people. The 1977 USDA Dietary Guidelines for Americans were created by Senator George McGovern's Senate Select Committee on Nutrition and Human Needs. These revolutionary guidelines, that's being polite, were based specifically on Key's unproven hypotheses. They advocated replacing fat in the diet with polyunsaturated vegetable oils and carbohydrate-rich cereals, grains, and fruits. There were 6 specific goals. Goal 1, increase carbohydrate consumption to approximately 55 to 60% of total caloric intake. Goal 2, reduce overall fat consumption from approximately 40 to 30% of energy intake. Reduce saturated fat, this is goal 3, consumption to account for about 10% of total energy intake and balance that with polyunsaturated and monosaturated fats, which should each account for about 10% of energy intake. Goal 4, reduce cholesterol consumption to about 300 milligrams a day. Goal 5, reduce sugar consumption by about 40% to account for about 15% of total energy. That's a lot of math. Goal 6, reduce salt consumption by 50 to 85% to about 3 grams per day. Shoot. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
No
like
wonder everybody has
it.
like pots
Popular.
and stuff, you know?
Right.
I mean, they basically said, okay, you need salt in your body. Let's just take it all away. I'm dropping stuff.
Unreal. Yeah, this is totally unreal. Okay,
How
so
many people back in then even knew like how to calculate whether they were within these? We don't. I mean, nowadays we've got the apps on our phone. You can scan something or you can enter it in. It'll give you the breakdown. We didn't have that back then.
even then, it's a
They just
big
quit
guess.
eating it. You know, it was just vilified, and they just said, you know, just don't eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they probably had to have the advertising on TV help them along with educating the public. Right?
Snack wells
Yes.
and Tab.
Okay. That was the worst tasting stuff.
Okay, so the last sentence says the outcome was that the USDA dietary guidelines advised Americans to restrict their intake of saturated fat and to eat 8 to 12 servings of grain and cereals per day.
Oh my God.
Grains and cereals replaced the butter, lard, cheese, eggs, and meat that had been American staples for centuries. It also represented a profound departure from the species-specific diet with which humans had evolved. Since this represented a radical change in the way humans had acquired their knowledge about how to best feed ourselves, it's important to understand what drove this change. Wow. Yeah.
I'm going to see if I don't know if I have this attachment that's on this page, but let me just look and see if I have it. I got to go through. There we go. That's what's on this page, and it's not very good. It was just a picture from my phone, but that's what we're looking at on our page. So this was the basic seven foods from 1943 that was produced by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So
but at least look at how much, like we have butter and fortified, well, that says fortified margarines. Gosh, what year was that one?
This was 1943.
Yeah, back that far they were.
Well, yeah, wasn't it like after World War II that they started pushing margarine on people because it was cheaper?
They did.
Yep.
They were saying, because women weren't modern if they were using that old lard.
Yeah, but they broke. Yeah, the vegetables, like group 1 was green and yellow vegetables. So they went by
Oh my
color.
gosh. That is so crazy. My mom, when I was a child, she used to always say, we got to eat your green and yellow vegetables. She would say that all the time.
Yeah. Hi,
I
Mike.
bet
You
you
missed
she
us
got that
talking
from my
about
grandmother.
testosterone and erectile dysfunction.
You missed that one. Yep.
That's wild. I bet she got that from my grandmother back. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because she would say that same phrase, green and yellow vegetables. Like,
Wow.
who says that? I've never heard anybody say that since then.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I guess that's where that came from. So then we have group 2 is oranges, tomatoes, grapefruits. These must just be examples. Group 3,
Yeah.
potatoes and other vegetables and fruits. So other vegetables falls under that same with potatoes and fruit. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
And then group 4, milk and milk products. Group 5 is meat, poultry, fish, or eggs. And group 6, bread, flour, and cereals. And group 7, butter and fortified margarine. And they seem to have equal weight.
Yeah, that's one thing that does surprise me about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, basically, if you were to eat that, like from birth and stuff, you'd probably be okay.
Well, nothing is.
Most people were.
Yeah. There wasn't all the processed stuff nearly back then like it is now. But all right, interesting.
It is interesting.
Oh, Mike says, LOL, alrighty then.
Yeah, you'll have to go back and watch.
Yeah,
it was a fun discussion.
It was a reaction.
Somehow lately, that's right. Somehow lately in our conversations, we have been getting into male topics a little bit more than
we have.
Yeah, but it's good. It's relevant, right? It's important. So, okay, so let me just take a look at the next section. It's very long. Do you guys want to stop here and pick up on the next section next week?
I don't care.
We've been going on this hour and a half, so it's probably a good place to stop.
Yeah, looks like a good place.
It probably is.
That section is really long.
It is long. Mm-hmm. We'll have to break it up between us.
Yeah. Well, at least there won't be. I don't think there will be any complicated medical words in there.
Yeah,
I think I shouldn't stumble as much.
I had already told you to, but I was going to tell everybody else. I've been going back and listening to our keto study clubs, and and just like rewinding them and like taking notes and stuff like that. And I feel like I've really grasped a lot deeper level than I have, just even in here talking and stuff. It's just, you get so much more the second time around, especially when you're not worried about any other stuff. Like, is it my turn to read or
yeah. Reading and absorbing and assimilating all at the same time is definitely not super easy. But I'm actually glad that we're stopping and looking up terminology because it definitely does help. So, yeah. But if I did have one criticism of his acronym section, it'd be nice if it was in alphabetical order, which it is not. So you have to skim through the whole list, right? And yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah, but I might actually make a photocopy of those pages and just fold it over and use it as a bookmarker.
Ooh, so that's a good idea.
Google, because it's so quick to just and then
I can add on to it, Google the new stuff and then maybe add on to it and create a more thorough list. So,
Mike. Yeah, you're going to have to bring a note from your doctor.
That's right.
Maybe you can get Dr. Nelson to write you a note.
Yeah, Dr. Nelson was here. Yeah, he can excuse you for your tardiness. So,
Mike, listen, you've missed the class now. This is going to be an absence.
That's true.
It's a little bit just come in this late and be like, I'm here.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're glad you stopped by, Mike.
Yeah, glad that you're here. Always a pleasure for sure. Okay, awesome. So we will be meeting again on Sunday for our book club. We'll grab our book. We're going through Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means. And it's taken us a while to get through this one too. two very detailed, interesting books that we're going through.
Well
we did
written,
go
though.
over all of
Her
our
book is
labs this
so
week.
well written. I think Casey's book, The Good Energy, she takes time to explain it, and there are technical terms, but then she also mixes in like personal experiences or patient experiences that she's had, and things like that. So it's better absorbed. I think I guess it's like the spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down.
Yeah. Oh, I have to tell y'all something. I can't believe I forgot this. I had a patient the other day, and it wasn't the patient, but the family member and I had just really been bonding. We had a lot in common, even though she's like in her 70s. She just reminded me a lot of me, just like she liked the same things, and we were just vibing the whole time, right? And so she started asking me some questions about things that I had commented on, and how it gets around to, well, I actually eat carnivore. So I started telling her about carnivore, and she just kept asking me and asking me and asking me. And finally I'm like, look, I had answered so many questions, and like the patient had blood pressure problems, and like I was super busy and answering her questions and like basically giving her a lecture on nutrition while I'm taking care of this hypotension. And so I said, look, I'm going to give you one YouTube channel to go to. Okay. And anything you could possibly want to ask me, this man right here is going to tell you. I said, his name's Dr. Ken Berry. And then also on top of that, before she left, I said, oh, I've got one more for you. I said, this guy's actually making a movie. And I gave her Carrie's channel. Nice. And she was, honey, before she left, she was hugging me and just, thank you so much for telling me about this. And she's like, I'm so excited to try this because I've just, I have so much joint pain. And like, she was just so excited about trying carnivore.
Oh man, good job, Kim.
Yay,
good job.
I love it.
That's
I love
awesome.
it. Everybody tune in. So Saturday at, I think it's about 5 Pacific time, Carrie is going to have a live stream where is our whole Healing Humanity team is going to be on the live stream. And so that everybody can meet the people behind the scenes.
When is it?
Saturday. And he's got it on his channel. So you can hit notify me and it'll let you know. I thought it was at 5, but it's set for like 5:26. And I think that might be a mistake. I'm going to have to message him and see if that was a mistake.
Okay. So that's like 8:30 or so my time.
Eastern time. Yeah, exactly.
So aren't you doing a thing with your functional medicine doctor lady also?
So yeah. So Saturday morning, this is 9 a.m. my time, Pacific time. Me and Dr. Nicole Hewitt are doing a live new patient visit. I'm the patient. She's the doctor. She's going to be my functional medicine doctor, and we are going to demonstrate what a good new patient visit should look like.
And what time is that?
Pacific time, it's 9 a.m. on Saturday.
Okay.
Yes.
So
I've already sent her all my labs from the last couple years. So she's looking at them. And I'm going to basically be sharing all my information online.
Hey, we share all of our private HIPAA protected information so that it benefits you guys.
And it's only under HIPAA if we don't give permission. If I'm sharing it myself.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. I'm just saying that's all of our private information.
That's right.
It's also protected by HIPAA if we wanted it to be. We're putting it all out there laying it all on the line so you guys can maybe hopefully benefit from it somehow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for anyone who might say that our live stream is a HIPAA violation, no, it's not.
No,
I am knowingly sharing my information. So, but yeah, I thought it would be really cool. It was her idea actually to do this because she really, really would like to show people like what your doctor's visit should look like if they're doing a good job. And so many people go to the doctor and they feel rushed and they feel like, did the doctor really understand what's going on with me? And So it's I'm really anxious. I don't know what to expect going into it. So it's going to be
Yeah.
really interesting, and show
Mhm.
up and we're probably gonna do, like, if people have questions, we're probably going to save them for afterwards. So it'll be like an uninterrupted patient visit. You can put your questions, like QQQ, put your questions. If you have any, we'll address the questions afterwards. So I was a TV reporter when HIPAA went into effect. We were strongly cautioned. Yeah. Without
Yeah, but
someone's
you can't
permission.
sue yourself, Mike.
That's right.
Lynn, I'm going to sue you for releasing your
That's right.
information. For your own information. You
That's
can tell
right.
any of your own business you want to tell.
Exactly. I am free to share whatever it is. So, alrighty. Well, that's it for this week. So we got stuff going on. Anything else going on with you guys with your channels that you want to share?
Just these 2 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah,
And come on
I'm not
tomorrow.
really doing anything special. I'm liable to post a video this weekend. I've got a couple of things that I've been working on, but I don't know if I'll get them posted or not. But going to the concert tomorrow night. And I'm hanging out with my carnivore brother tomorrow, so
Cool.
gonna have that steak and eggs.
Yay.
And join me and Lindy from Limitless Lindy every Friday, 5:30 Pacific time. We are doing our fitness challenges. It's turned into challenges. It's not for people who are physically fit. It's for people who are very deconditioned, trying to get physically fit. And we do weekly updates on Fridays at 5:30. And we are going to announce the next one. We're doing them in 4-week increments. So we're going to announce the next one that we're doing. So
hey, quick question, Lynn, about the rebounder. So which rebounder is best, the one with the spring or one with the bungees?
I have the one with, well, let me see. I think mine has the springs. Hang on. Let me quickly, it's right here. Let me go look. It's been a while since it got.
Mike, it's Bush, Candlebox, and Jerry Cantrell.
Oh, no, mine has bungees.
So do you like that?
I do. I like it a lot.
Because I'm getting ready. I think I'm getting ready. I have one of the little tiny exercise ones. Well, it's not that little, but from Walmart, basically. Hold on, Alexa, stop. Anyway, I have one of the ones from Walmart from like several years ago, but I want one of the ones with the handle on it so I can jump real high and like do, like air splits and stuff. And so I'm going to get one off TikTok Shop, and I might even get it free because I get a lot of stuff free.
Nice.
Because I am advertising for these people basically. So just wondering if I should get the bungee or the spring. If
I'll send you the link to the one that I bought off Amazon, so you can just take a look at the specs for it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty easy to put together. It's quiet. I don't know how the springs are, but it's nice and quiet. And
good. Yeah, that
it has a weight limit of 450 pounds. It's heavy duty, and it wasn't that expensive.
A lot of times they're the same ones that are on Amazon as on TikTok.
Yeah. All righty. Well, good to see you, and glad all of you joined us today. That was great. Okay, what was an accident? Did I miss a comment?
Oh, she may have posted something and then deleted it.
Oh,
maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Hey, we all make typos.
But nice to see you.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end it for this week, and glad you guys could join us.
Bye.